King Charles and Queen Camilla laid flowers at the September 11 memorial in New York in a somber moment during their state visit to the United States. It is the first time that the royal couple have been to the site, which remembers the nearly 3,000 people who lost their lives in the attacks of 25 years ago.
A landmark royal commission into anti-Semitism called in the aftermath of the Bondi shooting has recommended that gun reforms be prioritized and policing arrangements for Jewish holidays extended to other Jewish festivals. The commission, Australia's most powerful form of public inquiry, was announced in January, 3 weeks after 2 gunmen opened fire at a Jewish event at Bondi Beach, killing 15 people.
And Amazon was one of several tech giants that on Wednesday beat Wall Street's first quarter earnings expectations, offering more financial evidence that the AI boom continues to reward companies that supply the picks and shovels. And Amazon's cloud business is the latest example. Amazon Web Services, buoyed by its role in fueling the AI boom, saw its net sales increase 28% year over year, climbing to $37.6 billion, the company said Wednesday. And it was the fastest growth rate for AWS in 15 quarters, Amazon president and CEO Andy Jassy said during the company's earnings call. And Amazon and Meta are among the big companies set to lobby India's payments body over the dominance of Walmart-owned PhonePe and Google Pay in the country's fast-growing instant payments network. And executives representing platforms including Amazon Pay, WhatsApp, Cred, MobiKwik, and Flipkart's Supermungry are scheduled to meet the National Payments Corporation of India on Thursday, TechCrunch has learned. And the body operates the Unified Payments Interface, UPI, India's instant payments system that processes billions of transactions each month.
US singer D4 has been accused of purchasing multiple tools online, including chainsaws and a shovel, after prosecutors say he stabbed a teen girl to death. The new allegations against the TikTok star were released as part of an extensive evidence filing in the case, which details more about his alleged motive and the steps prosecutors say he took to cover his tracks before her dismembered body was found in his car.
And US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth sparred with Democratic lawmakers during a nearly 6-hour-long hearing. In his first time facing questions under oath since the start of the Iran war, Hegseth appeared before the House Armed Services Committee on Wednesday, alongside Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Jen Dan Kane, and the Defense Department's Chief Financial Officer, Jules Hurst.
Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella was asked point-blank by a Wall Street analyst on Wednesday how its revised OpenAI partnership would impact Microsoft's financials. He said that the new agreement was a good deal for everyone. We feel good about our partnership with OpenAI. I'm always very focused on any partnership and ensuring that there's a win-win construct at all times. I mean, that's how you can remain good partners.
When Meta released its quarterly earnings report on Wednesday evening, a colleague pointed out how Meta lost $4 billion on Reality Labs, the division responsible for its AR glasses, VR headsets, and VR software. I yawned at first. Meta losing $4 billion on Reality Labs just didn't seem surprising. It's a given. Reality Labs lost another $4 billion, and also the sky is blue. Elon Musk came to a California federal court on Wednesday to argue that Sam Altman and his co-founders stole a charity. He left having admitted under oath that Tesla is not currently pursuing artificial general intelligence, directly contradicting a tweet he'd posted just weeks earlier. It was that kind of day for Musk.
And King Charles III and Queen Camilla continued Wednesday to highlight the enduring solidarity between the United States and the United Kingdom in a heartfelt handwritten message left at the 9/11 memorial in New York. We honour the memory of those who tragically lost their lives on 11th September 2001. The royals wrote on the note card attached to a bouquet of white flowers, "We stand in enduring solidarity with the American people in the face of profound loss."
Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney took office last year amid a flurry of aggressive actions by his country's southern neighbour. A recently sworn-in United States President Donald Trump slapped tariffs on Canadian exports and threatened to make the US neighbour the 51st state. The actions were particularly damning as Canada had deep trade and security ties with the US, not only sending nearly 80% of its exports to that market, but also often following lockstep on geopolitical policy and strategic moves.
And Google Cloud, the business under parent company Alphabet that provides enterprise AI solutions, had a blowout first quarter, with revenues topping $20 billion for the time, a 63% increase from the same period last year. However, investors were concerned about the constraints surrounding the business and how Google decides to allocate cloud capacity. In the first quarter of 2026, and the company said its cloud growth was driven by strong performance in the Google Cloud Platform, which grew at a higher rate than the Google Cloud division's overall revenue growth. And the cloud division includes a variety of services like infrastructure, data analytics, AI, ML tools, and Google Workspace.
Despite the lingering perception that no one really uses Copilot, Microsoft said Wednesday that its user base and engagement are growing for the AI tool that's baked into M365 apps like Word, Excel, and Outlook Email. M365 Copilot now has 20 million paid enterprise Copilot seats, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella said during the company's quarterly earnings conference. More than 5 weeks after a humpback whale became stranded in shallow waters on the German coast, a barge has ferried the animal out of German waters en route to the North Sea. The final operation to save the whale is being closely followed across Germany after the failure of earlier attempts to lure it away from the coast.
And Julian Alvarez's penalty secured Atletico Madrid a 1-1 draw against Arsenal in a nervy Champions League semi-final first leg clash. Victor Gyökeres sent the Premier League leaders ahead from the spot just before the interval on Wednesday after he was fouled, but Alvarez followed suit 10 minutes into the second half after Ben White's handball.
Organisers of a humanitarian aid ship sailing towards Gaza to help break Israel's blockade say the vessel has been approached by apparent Israeli speedboats. Our boats were approached by military speedboats self-identified as Israel, pointing lasers and semi-automatic assault weapons, ordering participants to the front of the boats and to get on their hands and knees, said the global Sumud Flotilla aid mission on Thursday.
And Mali's Tuareg rebels, involved in a continuing uprising, including the assassination of the country's defense minister, have said they want to drive the military government's Russian backers out of the country. Mohammed El Maulud Ramadan, and a spokesperson for the Azawad Liberation Front FLA, and told the AFP news agency during a visit to Paris to meet French security and defense officials that his movement's objective was for Russia's Africa Corps to withdraw permanently from the country. And tech billionaire Elon Musk has taken the stand for a second day in a landmark United States trial against Sam Altman, a fellow OpenAI co-founder whom he accuses of betraying promises to keep the company a non-profit dedicated to humanity's benefit. The trial centers on OpenAI's 2015 founding as a non-profit that later evolved into a for-profit venture.
Ukraine has asked Israel to seize a vessel carrying grain it says was stolen from areas occupied by Russia, its top prosecutor said, amid a diplomatic tussle between the two countries over the shipment. Ukraine's prosecutor General Ruslan Kravchenko said on Telegram on Wednesday that the vessel Panomitis was headed to the Israeli port of Haifa with grain, some of which was shipped from Russian-occupied regions of Ukraine.
And the United Arab Emirates is quitting OPEC, and the oil-producing bloc is losing one of its most important members. This comes during the worst global energy crisis of modern times, caused by the US-Israel war on Iran, which has hit the UAE hard.
Florida's Republican-dominated state legislature has approved a new congressional map, the latest salvo in an unprecedented national battle of redistricting before the midterm elections in November. The vote in both the Florida State Senate and House on Wednesday comes just days after Florida Governor Ron DeSantis unveiled the new map, which heavily favors Republicans.
And nobody said building a fusion power plant would be easy. Physicists and engineers have been working for decades to crack the problem. But over the last year or so, fusion startup Zap Energy took a deeper look at its pathway to a working power plant and decided that it would be quicker to build a fission power plant first. And Hungary's Prime Minister-elect Péter Magyar has met EU leaders in Brussels for the first time since his Tisza party won a landslide election on the 12th April, sweeping away 16 years of rule by Viktor Orbán after talks with European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, which he called extremely constructive and successful. Magyar said that in one sentence, EU resources will soon arrive in Hungary. And President Donald Trump says the United States will continue its naval blockade of Iran until a nuclear deal is reached with Tehran. The US president told Axios on Wednesday that he does not want to end his blockade on Iranian ports, apparently rejecting the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz so that US-Iran talks could proceed. And United States Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has faced his first public questioning from Congress on the US-Israel war with Iran. Over hours of tense testimonies alongside Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff Dan Kane, Hegseth battered away questions about the long-term goals and timeline of war, which began with the US-Israel launching attacks on Iran on February 28.
The United States Federal Reserve has held interest rates steady at 3.5 to 3.75% as inflation and pressure on the labour market during the US-Israel war on Iran weigh on the global economy. The central bank announced its decision, which was largely in line with economists' expectations, on Wednesday, wrapping up the last two-day policy meeting led by Chairman Jerome Powell.
And a magistrate has ordered that the youngest son of the late Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe is to be deported immediately from South Africa after pleading guilty to two offences earlier this month. A court in Johannesburg on Wednesday ordered Bellarmine Mugabe to pay a fine of $36,000 or face a 2-year prison sentence for brandishing a toy gun in a manner that created the impression it was real, as well as for being in the country illegally.
The British government risks stretching counter-terrorism laws beyond their original purpose by using such powers against activist groups, a United Kingdom terrorism watchdog has said. In his annual report examining the use of Britain's terrorism legislation during 2024, independent reviewer Jonathan Hall said the subsequent banning of pro-Palestine group Palestine Action had exposed real uncertainty over whether serious damage to property alone should qualify as terrorism.
Parallel Web Systems, the AI agent tool startup founded by former Twitter CEO Parag Agrawal, has raised a $100 million Series B at a $2 billion valuation led by Sequoia. Existing investors Kleiner Perkins, Index Ventures, Khosla Ventures, First Round Capital, Spark Capital and Terrain Capital also participated, the company said. This raise comes just 5 months after the startup announced its $100 million Series A at a $740 million valuation led by Kleiner and Index, and brings the total capital it raised to $230 million.